shame. And there were times when I said, no, I don't, I can hear you just fine. But again, then they would say something, especially in the car or in crowded areas, and I just didn't hear it. And so I went ahead and went to an audiologist, and sure enough, I have some of those hearing loss on my right side, and so I have to have a hearing aid. In fact, December last year was probably the best day in our marriage, one day. Because I didn't wear my hearing aids and she had laryngitis. I couldn't believe it.
Do you know what? This is true. Sometimes when I say something to him, this is what he'll do. Oh, the battery must be going out of my hearing aid. I can't hear you. That's what he does. He likes to play that game with me. It's called selective hearing. That's what I call it.
The point is, if, as Pam said, if someone says to you, you need it, they may not be mean, they might just be saying, why don't you get some help? So why not go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist and say, hey, can you do some testing? Let me talk to you and see. If it is, wouldn't it be to your benefit to work on it? You know, instead of just saying, well, that's what they're saying, but I don't think they are. I better not say it anymore. No, just help yourself and help them. I think you'll have a better relationship.
This next question. How do I stop my spouse from TMI? I had to laugh when I read that because I think that's my problem too. How do I stop my spouse from TMI? And sometimes this is...
Are you saying I say too much? Or are you saying you say too much?
No, not me. Maybe you.
I ain't saying a word anymore. You do the thing from now on, the whole afternoon, all
This can be a problem sometimes if you have one of you that's just very open and outgoing and there's no shame and just says whatever you want, and the other one is more reserved or much more, selective in what they say. Sometimes this could be a problem. But I think where it really becomes a problem is if the TMI is hurting my feelings. If the TMI is offensive to me, or if I'm embarrassed, or you're saying something that maybe you think is funny, and you're telling everybody, but it's not funny to me. It was an embarrassing story. So I think that's when we have to have a conversation. And I really need to explain, I can't just say, that's TMI, you shouldn't have said it. But I need to say, this is why I feel this way. It hurt me when you said that, or it bothered me when you went that far and said that. And this is why. That I really need, because unless he understands the feelings behind my feelings, it's not going to change. If I just say it's TMI, that doesn't mean much. It doesn't mean very much. But it's important for him to really understand my emotions behind it. Once he understands the emotions behind it, then I think I have a better chance of him being compliant with the reason I feel that way.
So we don't have different levels of comfort or discomfort with information that is personal. Some of us are not embarrassed to talk about anything and everything, and others would rather not. And so that's why, again, I'm agreeing with you. You just have to think what in what I'm saying might be embarrassing or hurting them, not so much whether it's embarrassing or hurting me. But because we're intelligent, we want to do things that are right for our spouse, not just for us. So, my culture is different. We, Hispanic, Latin Americans, we're much less politically correct than most of you Americans are. They're born Americans or raised Americans. And so my sense of humor is very, very open compared to my wife's sense of humor. And at home, we can do a lot of things and talk about a lot of things that we just wouldn't do in public, because I know some people would probably be offended. But if I do it in public and people are offended, especially my wife, she's the most important person in my life anyway, I want to make sure that she's not hurt or offended. Some of you are offended. I may not ever see you again anyway, so I apologize. That's enough. But I live with her. I don't want to hurt her feelings. And so that's where I have to be careful as to what I say that might not embarrass her or hurt her. That should be the ultimate litmus test. But also, if it's too much TMI, run for president. Of any country. I didn't say anything about the United States.
Colombia. Right, Colombia.
All right, let's get ready for the second part of this clip sometimes to remind us of what we have. Sometimes we take each other for granted. So we're going to talk about the most important emotional needs for women. It should only take about 5 minutes in order.
Okay, man, wake up now.
Really, understanding women is not that difficult. In fact, my wife sent me something this week to show me, Mark Gunger, an expert in marriage and marriage presentations, posted this, or she sent it to me and said, that makes perfect sense. So just pay attention to what he says. He says, females are simple. With them, yes means yes. And no means yes. And no means no. And no means maybe. And maybe means yes, and maybe means no. It's that simple. How difficult could it be? Well, they are a little bit challenging, and that's what we have to try to understand her most important needs. And so we said that a man's most important need is respect. And if you follow the same argument as Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 33, then you know that a woman's most important need is love. And love is showing love through words, cards, gifts, hugs, kisses, and courtesies, creating an environment that clearly and repeatedly expresses love.
There's another word we use sometimes to really express what that whole definition means, and that word is romantic. I want him to be romantic. It's important to me. But the problem is when we ask men, define romantic. What does being romantic look like? And men will say, I can't afford to be romantic. In other words, being romantic is equated with the dollar sign. I can't afford a dozen roses, because that's what being romantic means. I can't afford expensive nights out, expensive dinners at fancy restaurants, because that's what being romantic is. And so we tell men, if that's what you think being romantic is, you have it all wrong. It has absolutely nothing to do with the dollar sign. In fact, being romantic actually costs no money at all. It's the little things you do on a day-to-day basis. It's what you do when it's not her birthday, men. It's not Valentine's Day. It's not your anniversary. It's not Christmas. And it's not some of those other dates in the calendar that are typically associated with, you better go get a card. But what are you going to do on that day to let her know that she's special? Women like to save things. And at home, I have a box where I have a box that I've saved all the cards my husband has ever given me in 36 years, and actually we did date 3 years before we were married. And in that box, I do have some very expensive Hallmark cards. If you go buy a card today at the card shop, you are going to spend a lot of money. Because even a simple card, even the cheapest card, is going to cost quite a bit of money, doesn't it? If you bought a card recently, you know what I'm talking about. But my favorite cards that I have in my box are cards that did not come from the Hallmark card shop. They're cards that he didn't spend a penny for. In fact, my very favorite card is a card that my husband found a piece of scrap paper just laying around the house. And on this scrap piece of paper, he also found the box of colored pencils. And he drew a vase of flowers. And he colored every flower a different color with the colored pencils. And then he went to the computer and figured out how to do origami, and he figured out how to cut the flowers so that when I open the card, the flowers pop up. And he wrote, I can't take you anywhere, can I, without your behavior. And he wrote some beautiful words on the card. And the reason I like that card is because on the Hallmark cards that I have, somebody got paid to do the artwork on those cards. And somebody else got paid to write the poem or the verse inside the cards. But on my favorite card, the artwork was done by my husband. And the words on the card came from his heart. That's an example of a romantic action that doesn't cost any money. Now, granted, some of you are just getting to know us. Some of you have known us for quite a while, but my husband definitely has the humor in the family. You know, I'm low on that end, but he's high. And so some of the things that my husband has done to be romantic are probably not the norm, okay? It's probably not normal for people to do these things. You're not normal, I'm sorry. But some of the things you do, are on the TMI end. So on one morning, oh, and another thing about my husband, if any of you are my friends on Facebook, you know that this is Mr. Morning Man. I call him Mr. Morning Man because on all these days that we have to get up at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning to head to the airport to catch a plane, he is singing and dancing, and I put videos on my Facebook page, live videos, of him singing and dancing, and all you can see out is the moon.
Not dancing because we're at it, that's aerobic exercise.
Okay, aerobic exercise, whatever you want to call
I'm
it.
going to lose my job over that.
I'm just making a point that is not normal behavior at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And so he does like to get up early. Trust me, I don't get up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning unless I have the plane to catch. And when I do, I can promise you I'm not too happy about it, and my picture's not on Facebook, because you wouldn't want to see my face at that time of morning. But he typically gets up at that time of morning, and sometimes I think that's when he gets in the most trouble, because he's unsupervised. I'm still sleeping, he's up dancing and singing around the house at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, unsupervised. So on one particular morning, we didn't have a plane to catch, so I was sleeping in, and I get up. The first place I go, obviously when I get up in the morning, I go to the bathroom. So I went in the bathroom, and I reached for the toilet paper. We've talked about toilet paper before today, haven't we? But this toilet paper was very odd, because on the toilet paper in my bathroom, my husband had gotten up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, unsupervised, had taken the roll of toilet paper out of the bathroom, had unrolled it on the living room floor, had found a bright red magic marker, and on the toilet paper that he unrolled, he drew and colored red hearts, and he wrote, "I love you," all over the toilet paper. And then he rolled the toilet paper back up, and he put it back in the bathroom and just waited for me to wake up. So I reached for this this roll of toilet paper and that'll wake you up. That'll wake you up. And then all of a sudden I heard him bust out laughing because he was hiding behind the bathroom door waiting for me to reach for that toilet paper.
It's a good thing she turned the light on and saw it, because we're not sure that. Stop the alcohol.
I would have had red heart tattoos somewhere.
Interestingly enough, some men will tell us, but I'm not the romantic type. Well, here's the thing, that no one is born romantic. There's no such thing as a romantic gene. It's a learned behavior. You learned it usually from your parents. If you saw your parents holding hands, hugging each other, kissing each other, telling each other I love you, you learned that. And so it became part of your nature, but some of you never saw that, and that's why you think, I'm not the romantic type. But it's never too late to learn. You can learn, in fact, from others. Not with others. From others. No, this is what I mean. There was a lady who noticed that across the street from where they lived, there was a new couple that moved in the house there. And she noticed that every day when the husband would come from work, he would park his car in the driveway, and in his hands he had flowers for his wife, or chocolate for his wife, or a greeting card, or some sort of gift for his wife every day. And the lady would come out of the house and meet her husband, and they would hug and kiss each other, and he would give her the gift or the flowers, whatever it was, and she would be happy and kiss him, and they would hug and kiss all the way back into their home. And this lady here observed that happening every single day, and it was driving her crazy. So one day when her own husband came home from work, she says to him, have you noticed the neighbors across the street? The guy kind of got a little worried and says, yes, honey, I noticed we have new neighbors across the street. And she said, but have you noticed what he does with his wife? She said, no, honey, I haven't noticed. He says, well, every day when he comes home from work, he brings his wife flowers. He brings his wife chocolates. He brings his wife a gift. He brings his wife a greeting card. Every day he brings her something. Why don't you do that? And the guy said, honey, I can't do that. I hardly know the woman. Learn from others, not with others. There's a difference there. So watch how people behave. We were just telling these folks at the table during lunch. We were coming out of a restaurant in Orlando, Florida some time ago. I opened the door to the car for my wife, as I always do. She sat, and then I went around the car, and just as I was getting into my car, a truck pulled in front of us, and the guy rolled the window, and he says to me, hey, you scored some good points with my wife when you opened the door to the car to your wife. And then you heard the door slam on the other side of the truck, and the lady walked away. So my wife said, what was that all about? I said, I don't know. The guy says to me, you scored some points with my wife by opening the door of the car to your wife. And I said, you know what he should have done? When she said that, she was hinting to him, why don't you do that for me? And instead of telling me, he should have said, honey, don't move. Let me go and do it. And he would have scored all kinds of points. If he had learned from what I was doing and had done it for his wife, she would have been the happiest woman that day. But instead, he gives me a compliment instead of opening the door to his wife. So learn from others. Learn from others. Not with others, but from others. About that couple. What about that couple? The older couple.
We had an older couple one time, and they were almost 90 years old. And she said, I have a perfect example of why the little things matter. She said, every day, every year on a certain day, my husband and I go to the corner drugstore. And he goes in the store by himself. And he buys one twin popsicle. You know what twin popsicles are? They're a little hard to find nowadays, but it's a popsicle that has 2 sticks in it. She says he buys one. And he breaks it out, and together we hold the sticks and we break them, and we share that popsicle. And she said we've done that every year since we've been married. And I thought, that's a perfect example, really, of how something so little became so important to this little couple. And it was a romantic action repeated over and over that had special meaning, sharing one popsicle. You know, it's not big things. And it doesn't cost a lot of money to be romantic. It's the note on the steering wheel when I get in my car that he's gone out and secretly taped to my steering wheel. I love you. I hope you have a good day. It's the chocolate kiss that I find on the pillow when you put the covers down. The little things that you do, the unexpected text messages or the unexpected emails, the little things that you do, men, that repeatedly say, I love you, you're special to me.
Sharing, you heard that word, sharing. Sharing is very respectful to a woman when you share information, share feelings, share food sometimes. You know, the twin popsicle. It's simple. How much does that cost? It doesn't cost much. In the Reader's Digest about, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, I saw a story that just moved me when I read it. I said, I've got to tell this story because it illustrates the point of how sharing is a very romantic action. The lady that wrote the story said, I was standing with my daughter in line at the McDonald's to order, and in front of us there was an older couple. She says, I could tell that they were people of very little means because of the way that they were dressed. And we also noticed that when they ordered one burger, one pack of fries, and one drink. And then they sat down to eat, and they cut the burger in half, divided the french fries in half, and began to eat. And she says, my daughter and I were watching them, and we thought, poor people, they don't even have enough to buy their own burger and their own pack of fries. So she says, we came over to their table, we apologized for intruding, and we said, we just noticed that you ordered one burger, one pack of fries, and one drink. My daughter and I would be honored if we could buy another burger, another pack of fries, and another drink for you. And the man said, no, thank you. We're okay. We always share everything. But then the lady said, that's beautiful. Can I ask you, how come your wife is eating and you're not? And he says, well, because I'm waiting for her to finish so I can borrow her dentures. It's a love. It's a story of love.
No, that's not love. That's nasty.
I thought it was beautiful.
No, it's nasty.
So Ephesians chapter 5, verse 33 again says, so again I say, each man must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. So it's a mutual meeting of needs. You respect your husband, you as a husband love your wife. And therefore you're meeting each other's most important emotional needs.
The next most important need for women and men, listen up. Probably, if I would have asked men to guess, in fact, this morning I think I heard it. I think when I asked for the most important needs, I think you said that a husband's need is for her to shut up, for her to be quiet. Here we have one of the most important needs for women is for conversation. And look at the definition. Talking about the events of the day, feelings and plans, avoiding angry or judgmental statements, or dwelling on past mistakes, showing interest in your favorite topics of conversation, balancing the conversation. So sometimes for some women, they do have more of a need to talk, especially about the feelings. It's hard for men sometimes. I don't talk about feelings. You know, that's just not my thing. Whereas for women, that's important.
So I said earlier that men connect at the emotional level with their wives through their sexual intercourse or sexual fulfillment. Women connect at the emotional level with their husbands through conversation. Which is one of the reasons why, and it's not just with their husband, they connect at the emotional level with anyone That's why when women talk to each other, they go into great details, not because they want to know every detail, but that's because they connect this with that, with this, with that, and the other, at the emotional level. Of course, you know, and this is simple research, that men, and there's different figures that I've heard, but I think the standard figure is that men use only about 10,000 words a day, and women use about twice that many, about 20,000 words a day.
But I told my husband, you see, because I do love research, you have to look deeper than just the statistics. You have to ask yourself, what is the reason behind that? So when we came across the research that said women use double the amount of words that men use in any given day, that was easy. I didn't even need to research further. I told my husband, I said, honey, that's an easy one to figure out. The reason that I use double the amount of words every day compared to you is because I have to tell you everything 2 times.
Say that again? I missed something later. Well, so the reality again is that women do connect at the emotional level with anybody else by using words. We don't. We tend to be more bottom line fact people. Don't give me all that information, just give me the basic information. My sister is very typical in that I'm talking to my sister and she says, by the way, I was walking the other day and I was talking to my neighbor and, you know, they're divorced and whatever, and I'm saying, why are you telling me that? I don't know your neighbors. She said, I know. But anyway, and then she keeps telling me the story anyway. And after a half hour, she's told me this long story, and I'm like, and what was the point of all that? I didn't need to know all that stuff. But she has that need to tell me all that story. Hey, don't be offended, ladies. You know the definition of eternity? 2 women saying goodbye. One says to the other, hey, good to see you, we'll talk later. Tell Johnny hello. Oh, by the way, how is Johnny doing? And the story begins all over again. Half hour later, ooh, I'm going to run late because Mike is coming home from school. How's Mike doing, by the way? And you start all over again the conversation. And it goes on and on. Forever and ever. Not because they want to talk, but because they're connecting emotionally at that level. Think about it again. 2 men sitting in a gym. One says to the other, hey, you heard that Mike is getting a divorce? No. Hey, are you watching the game tonight? And that was the end of the conversation. So you don't need to know all the details. You have their spouses, their wives sitting there. One says to the other, hey, did you hear Mary's getting a divorce? No, what happened? And so they go right into the story because they've got to know the details because it affects them emotionally. I'm a pastor. In my training, Robert, back in the day, I was told that hospital visits should be very brief. And so when I visited someone in the hospital, I tried to stay very little, have prayer, and then I would say, when you're back home, we can visit. Because, you know, in the hospital, you don't go to rest. You know, you have the doctors going in and out, the nurses going in and out, the lab technician, the cleaning person, the person that brings the food, and then the person that takes the tray out. It's just constantly going in and out. You don't get any of your breath, and then comes the pastor to have another visit. So I went to the hospital to see one of my members who just had a baby, and I came home and I said to Kat, just came from hospitals from seeing, so-and-so, they had a baby.
Really? How much did the baby weigh, honey?
I don't know, 15 pounds.
Well, okay, how long was the baby? Who did the baby look like?
Probably the mailman. I don't know. I didn't look at it.
How long was she in labor?
2 weeks.
Honey, was the baby a boy or was it a girl?
It was a baby.
That is a true story. So, when my husband did that, I asked him, I said, honey, I can guarantee you there's not one woman in this room today that would actually take the time to go to a hospital, to visit a woman who had had the baby, and I can promise you, we would know all that information and more. Because as far as I was concerned, he had just wasted his time.
You see, now you have to listen to my point of view. Again, I get there, I walk in the room and the lady says, "Hi, Pastor, I'm sorry, I look so awful." And she wants to hold her baby and she wants to breastfeed her baby and I'm there, so I just come, everything went all right, baby was born and you're good. When you go home, my wife and I will stop by and visit you and talk about all those things. And that's not what I do. But I learned she wants to know all that information, so I asked a few more questions, at least 1,000 of them. But I know that if I ask 1,000 questions, she's going to ask me 1,500, and I'm still going to be short. So I learned, and the next time I went to the hospital, I said, hey, went to the hospital to visit so-and-so, they had a baby. Here's your phone number. Why don't you give me a call? Because I know I'm never going to ask all the questions. Because I don't have that need to have all that information. It's like the time I said to Pam, the plumber's coming to fix the pipe under the sink. Just let him in. I came home that night and I said, plumber come? She said, yeah. I said, well, what did he say? He says, good morning. And I said, well, good morning. And he said, how are you? I said, well, I'm doing fine, but it's hot today. I remember back in 1976, I was sailing with my grandparents. It was another hot summer. No. What did the plumber say? No. Anyway, so I said to him, and then she tells me this and that and the other, and about 3 hours later she says, and it's going to be $375. When I said, what did the plumber say? That's what I was asking for. The rest of the story, totally irrelevant, and didn't matter to me at all. I just want to know the basics. But I know that because she is a woman and has that need, I want to share more of that information. So I've had to learn. Tell me more about, especially when she's angry, when she's frustrated, tell me more. And by drawing that and by paying attention, she's feeling the love that I have to give her. Pay attention to this. James chapter 1 verse 19. So then, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. Notice the first thing that it says is swift to hear, slow to speak. So therefore, pay attention to what your wife says. Again, Leslie Perot say, men focus most of their communication on report talk, gathering information, while women focus on rapport talk, which is building camaraderie.
And the other thing I would say to ladies is, just as a word of counsel, we need to make sure that they're ready and have time to listen to. Because when I try to give all the information and he's not in a listening mood or not able to focus on me, then I'm also wasting my time. I need to make sure he's looking at me. Because if they're reading the newspaper, you didn't say it. You never said it. Or if he's watching the New York Yankees play, I never said it. For sure. So I need to make sure that, honey, I need to talk to you about something. So as soon as you have a break, as soon as you're ready to listen, let me know. We need to have some conversation. That's what I need to do. Instead of just assuming that he's ready, assuming he has time to listen, when it's probably not the case.
Yes, it's 2 seconds till the end of the game. The Eagles are about to kick the field goal that will beat the Dallas Cowboys.
Now he can cheer that.
And we want the Eagles to win that game. Not always, just that game. And you say to your husband, honey, we need to talk. That's bad timing. Wait until the field goal is kicked and the ball goes between the goalposts. Then he'll be happy to talk to you. Otherwise, it's just not a good thing to do. And by the way, when we talk about the 10,000 words that men use and the 20,000 words that women use, it's something interesting that happens during the day, especially if you work with people. That you as a man, you're using your words, and when you come to the end of the day, you use your 10,000 words, and then you get home, and your wife, who has been home with the kids, she still has at least 15,000 words. And wants to talk, and she starts by, well, how did it go today at work? And you say, fine. Because I'm done with words. I used all my words already. Well, you're not going to tell me anything? What you like me to say? Well, tell me something. Okay. See, we've run out of words. Your wife is the opposite. She used only 5,000 words, and so she saves the 15 to next day. And next day she'll have 35,000 words. You better sit down and listen. Eventually she's going to use them anyway, so sit down, please. Here's just a couple of examples. These are the visual cues of how guys tell stories. Introduction, middle, and end. That's the end of that. Here's how the ladies tell stories. All over creation, all over the place. Here's another one, how men talk, we simple things. Ladies are looking the other one up and down and comparing and all that good stuff. I like this one. What's the matter, Opal? She says, oh, nothing. And he walks away saying, that's good. And she says, you know very well that oh, nothing does not mean oh, nothing. This is kind of a modern one, although I probably should update it. Says, do you mind if I strap your PDA? Probably more like, do you mind if I strap your cell phone to my forehead so I can pretend you're looking at me when I talk? It's interesting how cell phones have affected our communication. In fact, there are people who have made an agreement when they go to a restaurant, they put all the cell phones face down, one on top of the other. If one phone rings, whoever reaches out to pick it up pays the bill for everybody. Which is to say, hey, listen, let's put these things away and have a conversation like human beings. Now we don't. We get to the restaurant, the first thing we do is pick up the phone and start texting and looking at Facebook or whatever it is that we're doing and ignoring everybody else. By the way, there was a study done by a restaurant. They were having all kinds of complaints about the food being cold. And they had never had that problem until recently. They hired a company, they set up cameras all over the restaurant, and they figured out what the problem was. You know what it was? People ordered the meal, it came nice and warm, and the first thing that people did was take the camera, the phone out to take pictures of the food, and the food got cold. So then they complained the food is cold. The food was not cold. So they were taking the picture and of course then posting it on Facebook, sending it on Twitter. Then of course they got a response from somebody, so then they had to respond to that somebody every time the food was getting cold. Cell phones are wonderful. I don't want to go anywhere without a cell phone. When I go someplace without a cell phone, I feel like I'm without a cell phone. I just don't feel it. Something is missing. We need to learn to put it away so we can actually interact with humans again. Here's another one. If you really were listening to me, what did I just say? And he says, blah, blah, yada, blah, yada, yada, blah, blah, yada. She says, oh my goodness, you actually were listening to me. All right.
The next one is honesty and openness. We talked a little bit about this morning. Remember we said that dishonesty was one of the most destructive love busters? Well, isn't it interesting that here we see honesty is one of the most important needs for a woman. I need to know you're honest with me. So we ask men, we say, what would happen if a reality TV crew were to follow you around the entire day? From the time you opened your eyes in the morning to the time you closed them at night. And they were to record everyone you talk to, every text message you send, every internet site you were on, your interactions with people at the when you got gas from your car, your interaction with your colleagues. At the end of the day, is there anything on that film that you would not want your spouse to see. We need to make sure that we're being honest, that we're being open, revealing positive and negative feelings. Isn't it interesting here that we see it's not always communicating about the good things, the successes, the victories, the things that make us happy, our blessings, but also about negative feelings. We need to be willing to say, this is how I'm feeling today. And we need to be honest and open about that instead of sweeping it under the rug and just pretending it'll go away. Events of the past, daily events and schedules, plans for the future, not leaving with a false impression and answering your questions truthfully. I don't want to have in the back of my mind, is he really telling me the truth? Is he really where he says he is? Is it really the reason he's late for work? Did he really have to work late? All those questions should not be questions that we should be asking ourselves about our spouse.
One of the things that we say is that sometimes you ladies train your husbands to be dishonest. Would you like me to show you an example? This is from history, actually. But this is how you could train your husband to be dishonest.
This is just me with that type of thing.
Honest Abe, I cannot tell a lie.
So when you come to your husband and you ask him, do I look fat in this dress? And he wants to be loving and all that, and he just begins to say, well, I can't believe you said that. I guarantee you he will not be honest the next time because he doesn't want to hurt your feelings. So you have to decide, you want him to be honest all the time, or do you want him to be dishonest when it's convenient for you? Now to you guys, I say, be honest, but not rude. Don't be rude. You know, your wife says, do I look fat in this dress? And you say, oh my word, where did you get that tent? Well, that's not being honest, that's being unkind, that's being rude. So you have to have this conversation at some point in time. How do we manage some of these things? When I ask you something that I'm wearing, I want you to be honest. Don't just tell me that I look good when you don't think I do. Tell me. Or, no, hey, if I don't look good, I don't care. Just tell me that I look good anyway. You have to decide that. But I would think that you would want your husband to be honest all the time, not just selectively honest. But again, don't be rude. Here's some examples. She says, be honest. This is a dangerous thing when they begin this conversation. Be honest. Be honest. Do these jeans make my booty look huge? No, not at all, sweetie. The jeans don't have anything to do with it. I'd say it's all that dairy you eat every day. Well, that's not being honest. That's being very unkind. Of course, Hagar the horrible. Why do you have to have a drink before dinner every night? So he says, you don't expect me to eat that stuff sober, do you? She dumps the salad on top of it and says, you tried to be honest, and this is what happens. No, that's not being honest. That's being rude. That's being unkind. Here's another example, and you have to read the caption first. When honesty is the worst possible policy. She just had her 50th birthday, and he says, yes, of course you look 50, and then some. Is that being honest? No, that's being rude. That's being unkind. Here's another one of those traps. She says, which dress makes me look better, the blue or the red? That's a dangerous question. Which dress makes me look better? So he says, this is a setup. She says, that's not true. I want your opinion. So he says, fine, the blue one also. I look better than the red one. How can you win that argument? I love this one too. Do you really think my hair is getting thin? Because I think your hair is fine. Fine? Do you mean fine as in thin and wispy, or fine as in full and healthy? I mean fine as in now is a fine time for me to take a walk. You say bound to fail. Don't do that with your husband.
The next one is financial support. And there again, remember when I talked about physical attractiveness, we talked about moderation? It's the same thing here. For most women, they need the financial support. By that, I need to know that I have a stable roof over my head, and I'm going to have food on my table to feed my kids, and my kids are going to be warm in the winter. That's what financial support means. It doesn't mean that I live in the biggest mansion in the neighborhood. There again. And it doesn't mean that I'm expecting you to work 2 jobs if you have to make enough money to support my spending habits at the mall. It's not what it means. It means that your basic financial needs are being met, that you have a sense of financial security.
Look at the definition: provision of the financial resources to house, feed, and clothe yourself, clothe your family at a standard of living acceptable to you, but avoiding travel and working hours that are unacceptable to you. So it's not just working yourself to death to provide your family with the biggest houses, the newest cars, the newest toys. No, spend enough time with them too. In fact, with Hadassah, we went with Highland View Academy. Our younger daughter went to the country of Belize for a mission trip. And I remember as we were rounding a corner, we saw a couple of kids on the side of the road, 2 little boys playing with sticks, and the academy kids in the bus were looking at them and they were going, "Oh, look at those 4 little boys, they don't have any toys to play with." I said to the kids, "You think those kids are not happy? I bet you they're happier than 90% of the kids in the United States that have a closet full of toys and will come to mom and dad and say, 'I'm bored, I don't have anything to play with.'" Because those kids, I'm telling you, those kids are happy because what they have in their hands is not sticks. Those are swords. And tomorrow they're airplanes. And the next day they're cars or whatever their imagination makes them out to be. They're happy. Don't think that happiness means things. Toys. Just think about it. You give your kids some toys this Christmas time, and probably by the end of January, they don't even play with them anymore. They're bored. So don't work yourself to death to give them things. They may not tell you, but I can tell you that they probably would rather have time with you and not with their toys. In fact, much rebelliousness from kids goes back to the fact that they're not receiving enough attention from mom and dad. Not that they're not getting enough toys. They're not getting enough positive attention from mom and dad. So don't just work yourself to death to provide your kids with all the things that they want. It is important, though, 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 8, but if anyone does not provide for his own, and especially for those of his household, is denied the faith and is worse than a non-believer. So don't just neglect them and say, "Well, I'm not going to give you anything." But don't work yourself to death to provide things and not time, quality relationship with your kids. I know this one. Little did I know I'd taken wedding vows and a vow of poverty at the same time. I want you to think about that because we said the number 1 emotional need for men is respect. You think she's respecting him? The guy works hard only to have his wife say, "You're not bringing enough. You're worthless." Think about that. Another interesting one, remember when choosing a husband, money can't buy happiness. But on the other hand, neither can the lack of money. So again, don't just say, "I'm not going to provide, I'm just going to spend time at home." No, you work to provide for the basic needs of your family, but then spend time with your family, which are just as important.
The last one is one of my favorite, and that's family commitment. As we travel around the world, actually, we've been talking to men more and more about stepping up to the role of being a father. And that's really what family commitment is. It's not just about being a good husband. But if you have children, it means that it's important to me that you be a good father. Because God didn't just call me to be the parent. God called us to be a parent. And we have too many men who think the primary role of parenting belongs to the mother. And we need to change that. We need to change that whole aspect. I did some research. Of course, my background is in the field of education. So educational development and academic development of children is very important to me. So I did some research in the academic development of children, and I discovered that the #1 predictor for academic success is literacy development. The ability of that child to learn to read and write. So if you are a parent here today, especially if you have young children, listen up to this. The #1 predictor of whether your child is going to be successful later on in life, successful in school, successful in college and university, will be the literacy development. So I started researching into all the different methods that I could do that would enhance the literacy development in children. The #1 thing you can do was no surprise to me. The #1 thing is reading to your child every day. And actually, you can start this even if you're pregnant. Even in utero, fetuses get used to the sound of the mother, and you can read to them, actually. So, reading to your child every single day is the #1 thing that will predict academic success later on in life. Well, here's where it really got interesting, because this was the piece of information that just was so exciting to me. It wasn't just reading to the child every day. It made a marked difference if the father read to the child every day. Because they did a lot of research and compared if the mother read to the child, if it was a female voice reading to the child every day, or a male voice reading every day. Something happened amazingly when the father read to the child every day, that academic development went off the chart. What I love to do is take research and put it with Bible truths. That's really exciting for me. So when I read that, I thought, wow, it's no accident that God has called fathers to be the priests of their home. Put those two things together. Put that biblical principle together, dads, with you being called to be the priest and the spiritual leader of your home, with science and research is telling me the #1 thing is reading to your child every day. Men, you need to be having daily worship in your family. You need to be reading from God's Word every day to your children. You need to be reading to them the Sabbath school lessons every week. You need to be studying their Bible memory verses every week. Put the two together and let's assume the spiritual leadership that God has called you to do. And in so doing that, you are also impacting their future, not only for eternity, but for life on this earth. You're doing both, and that's some incredible research that we really need to be sharing with the men. And if you know someone who's a single mom, come on, men, let's step up to the plate and let's fill in that gap for these moms. This is so important. This is a lot what we talk about in the parenting books and resources that we've given. But this family commitment, spending time with our children. My husband does so many things for me that tells me that he loves me, that tells me I'm important to him. But I have to tell you, even today, when our babies are no longer babies, when we have 2 adult daughters, there is nothing my husband does that warms my heart more than when I see him loving our girls. Even today, when I see him spending time with our girls, with being the father that God has called him to be. So men, it's not just making an impact with your children and influencing their eternity, but I can tell you that as a woman and as a wife, when we see you taking an active role in the development of our children, it really warms our heart. And it really fills my love bank to the brim and overflowing. Right, ladies? For those of you who have children, and I can tell you, it doesn't matter if they are a babe in arms or if they're 35 or 36 years old, like our kids are. It doesn't matter how old they are. It still warms our heart.
At the same time, it's important that you spend time together as a couple. But we feel it's important to have these types of events. Because you can spend all the time with your kids, and in fact, some families will devote so much time to their kids that they ignore each other. So it's important that you spend time together as a couple. So we've come up with a formula that we would encourage you to apply in your relationship in order to keep it strong. We encourage you to spend time together without friends, without children, without cell phones, televisions, computers, newspapers, books, distractions of any kind. Just the two of you. Spend at least 30 minutes each day, one night a week, one day a month, and one weekend each quarter. Again, 30 minutes each day, one night a week, one day a month, and one weekend a quarter. Just the two of you. If you have little kids, find another couple that you might be able to take, babysit their kids, and then you can exchange the favor. Or they can return the favor, or they can keep your kids so that you can spend time by yourselves. Your kids will appreciate it, and you need it away from your kids. Now, pay attention to this. Don't spend that time in problem discussions. No money discussions, no errands. Don't say, well, we're going to spend the next 30 minutes going to Lowe's or Home Depot to pick up, something for the house. And obviously, again, limit the shopping time. So here we have the next step for you. Identify and rank the top 5 emotional needs for yourself. Okay, for yourself. Go back. Did I go too far? Too fast? Hey, all right, we'll repeat it then. No problem discussions, no money discussions, no errands, and limit your shopping. Limit your shopping. Okay, we're good now? Yes. So you have the list of 10 emotional needs. Now what you need to do is choose the 5 that are important to you.
Now remember, they can cross over. It doesn't matter if they're male, typical for men or women. You just choose the 5 that are top for you.
And once you have chosen your 5, then exchange the list with your spouse. Not to say, okay, here are my 5, meet them, but rather, can I have yours because I would like to meet your emotional needs. And the needs ranks 1 and 2 should get very special attention. You don't get the 5 and say, well, I'm just going to choose one of these. No, if they put number 1 as the most important one, well, that one should be the goal, your goal to meet it as often as possible, and therefore agree to meet your spouse's most important emotional needs. And of course, you have them there: respect, sexual fulfillment, physical attractiveness, recreational companionship, domestic support, love, conversation, honesty and openness, financial support, and family commitment. I want to close this session with these words from Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4, from the version of the Bible called God's Word. Don't act out of selfish ambition or be conceited. Instead, humbly think of others as being better than yourself. Don't be concerned only about your own interest, but also be concerned about the interest of others. If you just replace some of those words with your spouse's name, hopefully that will give you a different vision of what marriage is all about. Be more concerned about the other as opposed to being concerned about yourself. All right, we're going to take a break. It's 2:25, so Dr. Rojas is coming to tell us what to do.
Thank you. So how much time do we have? 15 minutes, all right. Now, I gave you a survey. Please, this is good for us because we can evaluate. This is our first one, as a Chesapeake Conference, I've done this many times in other places, but this is the first one here, and this is the first one-day event. So I'm really interested in hearing from you.